Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, here we go. We're blissed. I'm blissed. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes. And I have a blissful thing to tell you.
I'm looking forward to it. Brad is engineering for us in Minnesota class. Let me give out the number, and I can't wait to hear what Dr. Shealy's got to say. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Listen line is 605-477-3249. Dr. Shealy and I are blessed. Dr. Shealy, I'd love to hear what you've got to say.
Well, you, of course, know the PIMP device that our dear friend Lou made with the chakra sweep.
Yeah.
Well, if you put it near or on the head, it induces gamma brain frequency. Gamma brain frequency is the highest the brain can produce. It is associated with creativity and being, quote, in the zone and happiness and higher intelligence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You know, Dr. Shealy, I had that device on me. And would it be okay if I describe a little bit about what this thing looks like?
Well, of course.
Okay. So, class, think of it like this. Let's say you take your index finger and your thumb on each hand, left and right hand, and you make a circle with them. Then you expand that circle out about 6 inches from hand to hand. That will be a circle about the size of the coil. This coil that is attached with a wire to the PIMP device, if you will, the main circuitry. And what I did was I had a problem with respiration, and I went to Dr. Shealy's clinic, and I spent several hours there. And I was exposed to two devices, the PIMF device, PEMF, Pulsed Electromagnetic Frequency device, as well as Dr. Shealy's Scalar Energy device, enhanced with sapphire crystals. And it's known as Sapphire Enhanced Adrenomedullin, the Scalar Energy device. So I was exposed to two of them. Now, the PEMF device, PEMF, has a fairly heavy coil. It might weigh about 8 ounces, and I put that on my chest, right where my throat begins, okay, going down to my chest, and I reclined for several hours with this. So I have had experience, and the coil became a little bit warmer and warmer, not hot. I would say it might have reached 102 degrees, just above body temperature. So I could certainly feel this deep relaxation, and I was able to concentrate and think about things. And I was thinking as I was getting into this deeper and deeper concentration state, I was thinking this would be really cool if I had to solve a complex problem. Now, is that what you can use this for, Dr. Shealy?
Absolutely, what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously an extremely desired state of mind, not when you're driving your car or things like that, but when you want to both feel good and be creative.
Now, I didn't have this on my head like a halo, for example.
Well, remember, well, you know this, of course, but this thing somehow goes through the whole body. So no matter where you have it, the brain's going to get something. The closer you get it to your head, the higher the gamma's going to be.
And what would be really neat to be able to test, like if there were two tests that were darn similar, Okay, I'm thinking like an SAT or that kind of a test. A short one, maybe one that lasted for a half hour. That kind of a test, with and without it, but with the test questions very, very similar, so it wouldn't be the same test, same questions. That'd be really interesting to know how that would work.
Well, as a matter of fact, I think Amber Abernathy is going to do tests like that.
Wow. And is she with the university?
Yeah, she's the Mary Charlotte Bailey Shealy Chair of Conscientious Psychology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That sounds really fascinating, and I look forward to hearing the results. Do you know, is that on the near horizon?
Well, obviously, that part of it is going to have to be studied. What we've demonstrated is the EEG producing these waves markedly increasing. You can be deeply relaxed with a lot of delta and put this on, and almost instantly it converts to gamma.
Dr. Shealy, how would that work with, let's say, I know a gal who, I know the husband of a gal who had some very serious surgery. It was relating to a brain tumor pressing on the eye. Really serious, long surgery. How would something like that work with the chief surgeon, the one in charge of the team that is performing that kind of surgery? Do you think that would be...
That is being creative, but it would almost certainly be phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that would enhance the surgeon's...
skill.
Yeah, and I was thinking natural skills, the skills that the surgeon came with, plus the training, plus the experience, put all together, and then enhance that with the pulsed electromagnetic frequency device. Many surgeons wear these, I'm not sure just surgeons, but they wear these headlamps, like miner's lamps, but, lightweight. I wonder if there could be a headband that would enhance a surgeon's skills.
Yes, I think so.
If we could only find a surgeon who, or an emergency room doctor, if we could only find one of those, right, Dr. Shealy?
Well, the emergency position was got in a hand.
I know. I know. I was thinking about Dr. Sergey Sorin as I was saying that. He'd probably be very interested in knowing this too, how it works on him. Yep. Now, I believe you've used the word experiential junkie. Is that the word that you've used, or the term you've used?
You just named me.
Class, what we're talking about is Dr. Shealy, if he believes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Shealy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you believe that something is going to have a positive effect, you want to know it firsthand. Not only, not just say, okay, all y'all out there, I want you to try this, and, if nobody dies, then I'll try it. It's not like that. You want to know firsthand, early on, maybe first, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because the purpose in life is to help other people. Mm-hmm. And to have an idea which is safe and can help other people, then just get going.
Yep. Well, I wanted to give you an interim report on my further experience with the Scalar energy device, the Sapphire-enhanced adrenomedullin Scalar energy device that you've lent me. And I want to give you some very important news when you finish giving that. Okay. All right, let me explain. For those who are new to the class, I was in Dr. Shealy's clinic, and I spent 3 hours there. And as I mentioned, I had the PEMF device on me, and also this Scalar energy device with the sapphire crystals aimed at me. And it was only a couple feet away, like maybe 2 feet away. And I was in one of these lounge-type recliners, deeply, deeply relaxed. And as I mentioned, I was in a deep, deep state of relaxation. The closest I can explain this to is just one step before hypnosis. One step, a small, tiny step before hypnosis. And so Dr. Shealy lent me this device, and it's the prototype, or it's an early early model, very early in the testing and evaluation of this particular technology. So I have it here at the farmhouse, and I have been bringing it with me. If I'm in a room for a while, it's with me, and while I'm sleeping, it's right near me, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet away, aimed at me. And I don't know if you can tell in my voice, class, but I had some pretty serious medical challenges, respiratory challenges. For a while, I was unable to broadcast, literally unable to talk for, I don't know, a minute. And there has been a marked change in my respiration and lack of pain. And the protocols that I'm following are the ones that Dr. Shealy has recommended, as well as, he's mentioned iodine, so I'm taking iodine. He's mentioned massive doses of vitamin C. He's mentioned, Dr. Shealy's youth formula, which is vitamin C and MSM. I'm combining that with serapeptase, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Omega-3, omega-6 oils. Trying to think what else I'm doing. Colloidal silver inhalations. And I want you to be very careful if you consider that class. In addition to that, the Scalar energy device. And the results that I am seeing with me are absolutely remarkable. And what I got was the doctors told me that it was a kind of a hospital-type infection that you get, bacterial colonizing bacteria infection. And I'm trying to think of the other term. It escapes me right now, but I'll get back to it. What I'm saying is I'm getting better, and it's not psychosomatic. I absolutely am getting better. And there was a time, and it wasn't too long ago, that I thought that I would have to give up broadcasting, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't think I was able to do it any longer. So my experience is you put all this together, and it is absolutely positively working. Of course, you need to add into that mix vitamin and mineral supplements, which I'm taking as well. The B's, the B vitamins. I'm doing everything that I think I can possibly do. We'll be right back. Class, Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, medical doctor, and we're talking about the scalar energy and the pulsed electromagnetic frequency device. And what I also want to tell you was that I was diagnosed with a mycoplasma infection. So that might be called walking pneumonia. And it's a killer. It's a killer. And it's a microscopic organism that's related to bacteria, and anyone can get it, but it most often affects older children and young adults, and it can occur sporadically throughout the year. Widespread community outbreaks can also occur. Mycoplasma infection is most common in late summer and fall. It can spread through contact, droplets from the nose or throat of infected people when they cough or sneeze. And it's absolutely no fun. It really is. So the treatment, antibiotics, erythromycin, clarithromycin, or azithromycin are somewhat effective, but because mycoplasma usually resolves on its own, antibiotic treatments of mild symptoms are not always necessary. So that's the information I have about mycoplasma. Dr. Shealy, your comments on what I've mentioned?
Well, to me, personally, if I had a significant infection of almost any kind, my first order of treatment would be intravenous vitamin C.
Which
in
I did.
In my opinion, it is about 1 billion times safer than any antibiotic, and it works better than most antibiotics. Therefore, that's what I would start with. But if the antibiotics don't work, to me, then it is essential to use intravenous vitamin C in large doses.
And class, I did that, okay, under Dr. Shealy's direction. And I think, Dr. Shealy, if you put all the things that I've done together, the vitamin C, intravenous vitamin C, plus your other recommendations about being on vitamin C, which was 2 grams a day, 2 grams per dose, 2 or 3 times a day. I've done that and do that, plus the vitamins, mineral supplements, B complexes, and the colloidal silver probiotics, and Greek yogurt many times a day, because when I was on the antibiotics, I destroyed my immune system, and because there were long courses, and I had to rebuild it. And from what I've learned about mycoplasma, my body had to actually take over and defend itself from it after my immune system was destroyed with antibiotics. Is that right?
That is correct, and that is the other thing. The vitamin C not only helps the immune system get rid of the infection and control it, but also helps restore your normal, effective immune system.
Mm-hmm. And you were going to tell us some more about
what I was going to tell you is, I forget sometimes, as I did this week, to send my emails to your wife instead of you. And I sent you an email several days ago that anytime you're ready, you can now have one of the finished Sapphire Enhanced Scalar models by bringing back the old rough one. We'll refurbish it.
Wow, that sounds great. I'll be in Springfield within about a week or so. I'll let you know when that is and make sure that your schedule and mine line up.
Well, it'll be at the clinic. Even if I'm not there Monday through Friday, you can pick it up.
And you've got a wonderful team there, absolutely wonderful. Your staff is just as kind and as nice and as compassionate as can be. Everybody there is just wonderful. And so thank you so much. Class, I'm not making this up. I was hesitant to talk about my situation for many reasons. I didn't want it to be woe is me. I didn't want anyone to feel that, gee, poor guy. I didn't want that to be in anybody's thoughts. I just wanted to continue doing what I do and kind of keep quiet that I had some challenges. But one of our affiliates, one of the owners called and said that they've been getting some calls. Where's Vinny? And they said, well, Vinny was having a tough time, but he's getting better. And I am getting better, and I'm delighted to make that announcement. So thank you so much. All of you have called and written and sent cards and things like that, just because you could tell. And Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for your treatment and your advice and counsel. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, class. And if you'd like to go to the website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, would you like to share any personal experiences that you've had with the Sapphire Enhanced Adrenomedullin Scalar energy device that you and Lou Cassidy have created? Did I lose Norm Shealy? Am I on the air? Let me check one more screen here.
Within 20 minutes, we can show marked decrease in inflammatory markers in the blood itself, and it increases the delta activity of the brain, which is deep relaxation. So basically, I think I can say at this moment in time, the Sapphire Enhanced Adrenoscalar, we're calling it Adrenoscalar because of its major effect on adrenomedullin device, is the best known device for total biochemical, mental, emotional, physical stress reduction known in the world. And over the next year, we're going to prove my other intuitive hit that it will also rejuvenate telomeres. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play goes on.
Dr. Shealy, when you talked about stress, the first thing that came to my mind is this epidemic of cancer that I see. Now, would you please comment on any linkage that you may believe there is between stress and cancer?
Well, only 100%. But remember, stress is physical, it is chemical, it is emotional, it is radioactive, and most of the genetic predispositions, whether you are genetically predisposed, let's say, to diabetes or high blood pressure or coronary artery disease, those genes are there, but they're inactive unless you activate them with unhealthy habits. In other words, you can prevent the manifestation of the negative function of most genes by having excellent health habits.
I was chatting with one of our instructors on the phone, and we were having a very frank discussion about disease. And we were talking about, people whom are close to us that have cancer. And so I asked him the question, are you seeing more? And this person is in the medical field. And I asked him if he's seeing more cancers. And, it was a very, very somber discussion. Yes, he and I are seeing, and as well as, I believe you, Dr. Shealy, we're seeing more and more cancers in people whom we know, serious cancers, on an increasing basis. So we're seeing more. It seems like it's ramping up, like it is. It's growing in intensity. It's manifesting faster, and it's quite frightening, Dr. Shealy. And so, if you've got a way of reducing stress and helping us prevent stress-related cancer, that's a great way to go. It really is. And so I look forward to continue reporting on my findings with the Sapphire-enhanced Adrenoscalar device. So thanks very much for letting me participate in that.
Obviously,
experience.
My work is to help people, but for friends, all of us have a slight preference for helping our friends first.
Yeah.
It's the natural human. But remember this, there's also personal benefit in having friends. Second, only to conscientious is having a network of friends.
And, as you say that, what came to my mind, two circumstances that involve me personally. And when you talk about a network of friends, one time you wanted to consult with another doctor regarding me, and you immediately picked up the phone and called one of your associates, Dr. Sergey Sorin, immediately. Another time, actually multiple times, you called another associate for a remote diagnosis, if you will. Actually, you did that twice. And by the way, she was spot on both times. That's Kay Randall Kay, and she's one of our instructors.
She is one of the excellent the true medical intuitives.
Mm-hmm. And she was right on the money both times. And the interesting thing was, the first time you'd called her, she'd never met me. Never met me, had no information whatsoever, and her diagnosis was absolutely spot on. As a matter of fact, the same diagnosis that you thought was correct, and that was spot on as well. And so she did that remotely and confirmed your diagnosis. Am I saying this correctly, Dr. Shealy?
No, that is correct. That is correct. Actually, before I knew the term medical intuition, I called it psychic diagnosis, starting in 1972. And actually, in 1973, I had a $50,000 grant from a Fortune 500 company. They wanted me to be a consultant with them, as long as I would never mention their name as having given me the money for that purpose, to study street psychics and find out how accurate they could be at making a true medical diagnosis. I devised a little test, and the premium one was 80% accurate in making a physical diagnosis and 96% accurate in making a psychological diagnosis. In fact, he could even give you the score on your Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory with 96% accuracy. And so that's how it developed from him. That was Robert Lightman, a physician. Henry Rucker was the first. He was 70% accurate in everything. And, of course, Carolyn Mace, who's 93% accurate.
You're talking about the MMPI?
Yeah, the MMPI. People like Bob Lightman can give you, with 96% accurate, what your score is on it.
Mm-hmm. I remember taking that when I was a lot younger, and my score said that I should be a mechanic or something involved in mechanical devices, maybe mechanical engineering, something like that. I scored really high on that, and I'm still interested in those things. I don't do as many as work on as many mechanical devices as I'd like to, but that's what I scored pretty high in, like in the high 90s, as far as I remember. But I've got to tell you, my take on K. Randall K. And my medical intuition friend was 100% accurate. Not 95, 94, 100% accurate. Is that how you remember it, Dr. Shealy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I was stunned, absolutely stunned, at her diagnosis because, well, I'll just say it like this. It was believed that I had lung cancer, and people who were looking at the medical tests, the imaging, and those kinds of things were very concerned about that. And she said, "Oh no," and you said the same thing. And it was kind of reassuring because it was surviving lung cancer is pretty difficult, based on what I've learned.
Putting it mildly.
Right. So I just wanted to share that with our class that she was quite emphatic. No, that's not the case. And you had recommended that I have a test, a simple blood test called a CA125. And so I did. I went right to immediately upon your recommendation. I went to any lab test now in the nearby village, and within 2 days I had the results, and the results said no cancer. And it was a test. Dr. Shealy, would you share with us what that test does? But I've got to tell you that the hospital doctors are not convinced that test is valid at all for men. However, you don't think that.
Well, obviously, there's no test that's 100% anything.
Right.
Except death.
Mm-hmm.
You can be 99.99999% when somebody's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But the CA25 test is a test of antibodies that are built up in relation to any kind of cancer. And obviously, as with, look, let's look at immune system for just a moment, because this is what, again, the cancer is a problem with inadequate immune system. When there is an epidemic, even in the biggest pandemic that we know, the flu in the, early 1900s, or the Black Plague back in the Middle Ages, not everybody gets it. Not everybody dies because their immune system is strong enough to protect them against it. Mm-hmm. Now, for instance, my very closest friend, whose name I will not mention, has had at least 5 colds this year, in the last 10 months. And that's because he doesn't take adequate care of himself, he doesn't get enough sleep, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I've been exposed to him throughout days of his having these colds. Mm-hmm. I'm knocking wood, I haven't had one. Mm-hmm. So my immune system is inherently strong. Mm-hmm. And so if your immune system's strong, it's going to not produce antibodies sometimes because it just takes care of it without the cancer getting active enough to show anything. On the other hand, for the vast majority of people, if the cancer is active, you're going to get some indication with the CA25 test. So it's a good screening test. If it's negative, it just reassures you.
surely does. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor. I'm Vin Finelli. So, class, the test that Dr. Shealy and I are talking about is called the CA, as in the abbreviation for California, CA 125. And it stands for Cancer Antigen 125. And it measures as Dr. Shealy said, the amount of protein in your blood. And the CA 125 may be used to monitor certain cancers during and after treatment. And it's a simple blood test. Normally, from my research, Dr. Shealy, it's used as a diagnosis of cancer for women, specifically ovarian cancer. However, there are other cancers that it can detect the antigens in, or the protein, in men, pancreatic cancer, lung cancer, I believe some digestive cancers. So it's a simple blood test. No fasting is required, and the results are usually available in 1 to 2 days. How much does it cost? Well, if you do it without a prescription, and you can go into any lab test now or another testing type laboratory where they draw blood. The lowest price I've heard is $58, and sometimes up to $129. So $58 to $129, 1 to 2 days. You can get it without a prescription. And you know, if you think that you've got a serious cancer and you want to have maybe some reassurance, I suggest you consider this. That's my opinion. Dr. Shealy, any other thoughts about this?
No, I mean, it's just one of those things that, to me, common sense says this just adds to the whole situation a little more safety, a little more reduction in anxiety.
And anxiety could be a killer as well. So if you have a disease and you have a problem and you're even more anxious about it, that makes it worse. My thoughts. Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article about beets, B-E-E-T-S, you know, that red root that we consume, that maybe we don't like to consume very much. And
I know, and it's actually one of the healthiest of all foods, period.
Mm-hmm. So I was looking at an article that talks about the benefits of beets, not only for health, but for beauty. And I think that people who are healthy are more beautiful. They look, I don't know how to explain this, but there's more of a shine, the skin tone looks better. Everything looks better when you're healthy than when you're sickly, right? Isn't that true?
You bet.
Yeah. So one of the benefits that I read about, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is beets are known to decrease blood pressure.
You've got it.
Mm-hmm. And it reduces systolic pressure in the blood due to natural nitrates in beets. And it can reduce blood pressure by 4 to 5 points. You know, not a lot, but heck, if you're just over the indication for beginning hypertension, it can put you under there, right?
Right.
Under that. Yeah. Yep. And it can dilate and relax your blood vessels. So that's one of the things that...
Nitrous oxide is one of the most nitric oxide, N-I-T-R-I-C, nitric oxide, is a chemical essential to make energy in your cells. Mm-hmm. And, of course, beets are one of the ones that can help that.
Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I've read that beets can prevent inflammation because it's got a rich source of betaine, B-E-T-A-I-N-E, and it's useful in protecting protein, cells, and enzymes from stress in your daily life. So beets anti-inflammatory and can lower your blood pressure. That's just two thoughts about beets. And then let's talk a little bit more about beets. Detoxing, avoiding cancers, and some other energy boosting. Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares with Dr. Norman Shealy. We've been talking about beets, those red roots that we should all be consuming, probably more of. Dr. Shealy, we talked about how beets can decrease your blood pressure, reduce inflammation, and beets also support detoxification. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, in our current society, which probably is the most toxic in the history of the world, we need every bit of help we can get with detoxification. I do want to mention, since you brought up detoxification, my number 1, 2, 3, and favorite detox, it's sweating. The favorite, of course, is a sauna, but second to a sauna is just getting in your bathtub and putting in water that's pleasantly hot, not obviously unpleasant. For me, it's about 104 degrees. And you soak in that for 20 minutes, and you're going to sweat for an hour afterwards. And that is even better, in my opinion, than drinking lots of water. Both are good. Those are the top 2 detoxes. And by the way, if there is a gastrointestinal toxicity, the number 1 treatment is activated charcoal.
So, and that would be just consuming, and you can get activated charcoal over the counter, and it's even available in capsules. Isn't that correct?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Gelatin capsules?
That's right.
And so, is there any risk of, are there any complications that you're concerned about with activated charcoal? Class, I guess what we're talking about is drinking activated charcoal with, pure filtered water, right?
Right. Well, anything but city water.
Right. I was thinking that you would waste some of the potential for detoxification on the chlorine and the fluoride in the water.
I mean, I consider city water poison. You talk about toxicity. Every time you open the tap, you're being poisoned by your city utility.
You've touched on 2 items that I have on my list for discussion today. One was the sauna, and I wanted to congratulate you again, Dr. Shealy, because you're right on the money all the time. And there was a Finnish study that says that regular sauna visits can reduce the risk for high blood pressure, hypertension. And this study included 1,621 middle-aged men with normal blood pressure who were followed for an average of 25 years. And it says that during that time, 251 of the 1,621 developed hypertension. Compared to those who reported 1 sauna a week or less, those who took 2 or 3 sessions were 24% less likely to have hypertension. And 4 to 7 visits a week reduced the risk by 46%. In the study, it says it controlled body mass index, alcohol consumption, resting heart rate, smoking, family history. So it was a study that looked at those things, and saunas seem to reduce the risk for high blood pressure. And you've been recommending saunas for years. And you mentioned the bath. Now, not everybody, and this is another thing that was on my list, not everybody has a bathtub. And for example, we didn't have a bathtub in our farmhouse until recently. I found a Whirlpool tub on Craigslist, and I bought that, and we built the surround for it, and we installed it. And so I've got a Whirlpool, so we now have a bathtub. And so I find that what you're saying is absolutely right. It's a warm, about 104 degree temperature. I put Epsom salts in it too, and that seems to have a great effect of relaxation, reducing blood pressure, and those kinds of things as well. So I'm absolutely with you on that, and the detoxification.
Well, and it actually improves heart function in general, not just reducing hypertension, but reducing the risk of heart disease, because the reason is it speeds up the heart. In fact, there was a study that came out about a year ago, and I wrote one of my newsletters about it, for the true couch potato. Move your television into the bathroom and soak in the bathtub with hot water. 20 minutes of soaking in that 104 plus or whatever degree water is similar for the heart, only the heart, not the rest of the muscles, as a 20-minute moderate exercise program.
All right. Now, here was a question. I was in the shower this morning, and I was thinking about this. We have this shower head, and I've mentioned it. They call it a high-pressure shower head, but it doesn't have any more pressure than the pressure of the plumbing and the system you have anyway. So you're not going to get any more pressure than you have in your house. But they call it a high-pressure shower head, and it's the size of a half a roll of nickels. And so it's a very small diameter shower head. It's not one of these big flowery things. It's very small, and what it does is it tends to atomize the water. So instead of having lots of water come out at very low pressure, it uses the maximum pressure that you have, and it blasts it in tiny, tiny, tiny droplets. So you use less water for one thing. It's kind of like being at maybe 4 feet away from a high-pressure washer. That's kind of what it's like. Well, I take off the shower head, and it leaves a hole about the diameter of a pen refill, like a big pen refill. And when I do that, there's a straight stream of water that comes out, because we don't have one of those pulsating shower heads. So I use this thing as like a blaster, and I aim it at my neck, my throat, my lungs, the back, my back, upper back, my stomach. I want to lose some weight, that I've gained a few pounds, 6 pounds, from being on steroids, and I want to lose that because I had a slight little belly left, and it's almost gone. And I aim it at my knees and my legs and the backs of my legs, and what it's like is it's like one of those pulsating shower heads without the pulsating. And what I found is I think the improvement in circulation for my chest, my lungs, my legs, my neck is a beneficial thing. That's what I think. And it's it's the warm water, probably close to that 104 degrees that you're talking about. Does that make sense to you, Dr. Shealy, or am I doing damage?
Absolutely right on.
Okay. So if you don't have one of those pulsating shower heads, you may want to consider doing what I've done. And I'm sure you can find on eBay one of these high pressure, low volume shower heads that for less than $10. And you may want to try it. And I think you'll easily save $10 in less than a year in the reduction in your hot water heating bill, as well as you use less water, and you can do what I do and take twist half the shower head off and have that high pressure kind of a stream aimed at those parts that you want to increase your circulation. So that's my alternative to the pulsating shower heads that use lots of water. And we talked about chlorine in the water, Dr. Shealy. So for those who live in cities, are they poisoning themselves with the chlorine in the water? Yeah. Well, I was thinking about the respiratory and their skin, because what they've done in the showers, they've opened up their pores somewhat. They've washed them clean with soap and rinsed with water, but the water has chlorine in it, and the chlorine is becoming it's volatilizing into the air in the semi-closed area of the shower, right? You've got a shower curtain or shower door, so you're kind of enclosed in a small area. You've got the chlorine leaving the water because it's hot water, and you're inhaling that for whatever length of time you're in the shower. Is that a long-term concern, Dr. Shealy? For me, it always has been, and that's why we like being on well water, and I have been for most of my life.
Well, poison is poison. And I've often said even a saint can only eat so much arsenic and survive long term.
Yeah.
So if I were forced somehow to live in a city that had chlorinated, and I think all city water is, and almost all are fluoridated, I would want a total house, apartment filter on my system. I would want something that unequivocally got rid of the fluoride, and the chlorine.
And class, I was at John Stadtmiller's house in Texas several years ago, and he had in his shower a filter, an activated charcoal filter on his shower head. So, and I was quite impressed with the lack of ability to detect chlorine in the water, because for those of us who do not have chlorine in our water, those of us with wells, when you go into a hotel and you turn on the shower, it's stifling, the chlorine in the water. You breathe it and you say, wow, there's a lot of chlorine in this water. I mean, it's obvious how much chlorine is in the water, and it's shocking to me. I don't like it at all. So, but I was in John Stadtmiller's shower, and no detectable smell of chlorine. So he uses a water filter on the shower head. So that's just a thought. You may want to consider looking into that if you have chlorine in your water. Now, a bathtub, you're not going to be able to put a shower head water filter on your bathtub faucet, but what you can do is what Dr. Shealy's talking about, and that would be like a whole house activated carbon block filter for your water. And I suggest you consider not consuming chlorinated and fluoridated water. We come back, Dr. Shealy. I'd like to talk about Hugh Hefner. Now, Hugh Hefner died recently, and his death was attributed to E. coli, and they say that he went into cardiac arrest after suffering respiratory failure. Dr. Shealy is with us, and Evan in Pennsylvania.
Hello.
Welcome.
There.
You're on with Dr. Shealy. Hi.
Hey, a question. We were talking about chlorine in the water. Here in Pennsylvania, many of us have monochloramine. Is that an improvement? I know, currently I am using a Berkey filter for drinking water and cooking, but do I need to be mindful of using it for showering and bathing and things like that?
Chlorine is chlorine, mono or tri or whatever. The risk of people who drink, of course, they're drinking and bathing in it, chlorinated water is 93% higher than those who don't drink chlorinated water.
Wow.
So all I can say is one of the reasons I wouldn't want to live in a city is that. But you can get a filter.
That goes throughout the entire house.
Because otherwise you're bathing in it and you're brushing your teeth in it and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for calling. Glad you read up that question.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Dr. Shealy, Hugh Hefner passed away recently, and the media is saying that he suffered from a recent bout of E. coli and septicemia, severe blood infection, and they were listed as contributing factors to his declining health and eventual death. And we know that that some diseases are resistant to antibiotics today. Do you have a comment about that?
Well, E. coli is one of the most common causes of serious infections. Remember, the E. coli is not a single bacteria. There are different strains of E. coli, some of them more dangerous than others. But, E. coli is the dominant bacteria in feces. from all animals. And certainly when it gets into the bloodstream, it's extremely toxic.
Mm-hmm. And how does it get into the bloodstream? Is that through ingestion? Inhalation?
Vince, I have never looked this up. I took it as fact when I was taught this 62-plus years ago in medical school. Mm-hmm. Even straining to have a bowel movement can occasionally put a fecal bacteria into your bloodstream.
Okay, so then that indicates that to prevent that, more fiber, right?
Right.
Is there anything else that we should do for those who don't want to strain when having a bowel movement?
Well, basically, I think you shouldn't have, bowel movements should be normal. You just should sit down and go without it being liquid, without having any discomfort. Just get rid of it. And if you do not have a minimum, one easy, soft, pleasant bowel movement a day, well, your gut's not working well.
Okay. So what do we do to fix those who are in class today who don't have that, who want to have I guess we'll call it a normal bowel movement? What do they do in order to make sure that they do have normal bowel movements? Are probiotics in order?
Well, absolutely. Probiotics are certainly at the top of my list. And remember, for those people who are sensitive to milk, where most people get their probiotics from some milk-related stuff, there are probiotics in all fermented food, like sauerkraut and stuff like that. But, of course, sauerkraut, it's been pasteurized in a can, doesn't have any probiotics in it. It has to be homemade, or you can sometimes in grocery stores find it in packages in the produce department. It has to be refrigerated. But otherwise, you can take it as capsules. And the one that I most often recommend is called G as in George, R8, number 8, Dophilus.
GR8, Dophilus. GR, letter R, the number 8, Dophilus. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us in class. If you'd like to peruse Dr. Shealy's website, normshealy.com, Norm, as in Norman, Shealy, SHEALY.com. And that's where you can buy the bliss oils. You can find his other offerings, as well as his optimal health recommendations. All right there at normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, there's a post on the internet about how the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is warning people who have been diagnosed with this disease called, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Campylobacter, Campylobacter. It means curved bacteria, and in terms of history, it was the symptoms were described in 1886 by a man who said it was like cholera, a summer complaint. And anyway, this bacteria has been linked to snuggling dogs, letting dogs lick your face, and those kinds of things. And so there are people who are coming down with this illness, and the symptoms include diarrhea, sometimes with blood, cramping, nausea, fever, vomiting. And they say to protect yourself from it, wash your hands thoroughly after touching dogs and dog poop and dog food, and make sure that children pay attention to this, and they need to wash their hands as well. And they say pick up and dispose of dog poop quickly, especially where children play. And they say that you might want to contact your veterinarian if you notice signs of illness in your illness in your puppy or dog. So obviously this dog poop is a health hazard. We've known that for years, but maybe we just don't pay attention to it as much as we should. Your thoughts, Dr. Shealy?
Well, that's probably true. Poop is poop. Whether it's dog, rat, or human, it's still got E. coli and other not so good stuff to eat.
Yeah. And, I don't think children necessarily, I'm talking about young children, necessarily wash their hands maybe as much as they should. So parents, grandparents, you may want to pay attention to that and make sure that your children wash their hands, at the appropriate intervals. That was one thought. Yeah. And so, Dr. Shealy, let's say a child is out playing in the sandbox, for those who have sandboxes. And then the cats, say, you know what? This is like a great big litter box. So, cats may do their business in them, and then the children, go and play in them. And then they get some sniffles, and they rub their nose. Now, can't we transmit bacteria from a child's hands up into the nasal cavity by rubbing the noses?
But actually, as you know, if you sit in it and move around, it gets into the air even, so you can breathe it. Yeah.
So, class, keep that in mind. And Dr. Shealy, would son, if there are feces in a sandbox or a play area, if sun gets to it, would that help disinfect it?
Well, the problem is, whatever's on the surface, yes. But let's face it, the cats cover their poop, and so the majority of it is buried.
Yes. Okay. Here's an interesting story that I was reading. Hard to understand how this could happen, but it did. And this is on dailymail.co.uk. Dr. Shealy and I have been talking about reasons why these kinds of things can happen in the past. So we'll just talk about it again. This is just an exclamation point on something that we've been talking about for years. So this girl, aged 9 years old, N-I-N-E, falls in a manhole. She falls right through an open manhole, 12 feet down, breaks her ankle. Okay? And so her phone, she has a cell phone, but that doesn't fall into the manhole. So she yells and screams for help, and ultimately she's in like a foot of water, broken leg and ankle from falling 12 feet into an open manhole. So she goes straight down. Fortunately, a passerby hears her and summons for help, and a ladder is brought, and she's able to climb out. Now, the question is a couple questions. One, why'd she fall in the manhole? Two, why wasn't there a manhole cover on a manhole? And let me bring up a test question answer, class. So why are manhole covers round? Why are they round? So they don't fall in. That's why they're round. Because if they were square, they could fall in. And that's a big problem if they weigh, 120, 130, 150 pounds. So the reason they're round is so that they don't fall in. And they've been round for a long, long, long time. But where'd the manhole cover go? Well, obviously it went somewhere because it was open for this young girl to fall in. So the point I'm trying to make is she had a cell phone, but it was not in the manhole with her. It was on top of the manhole on the street.
Probably had it in her hand when she fell.
Yeah, and then the question is, how come she didn't see the manhole? Obviously, she wasn't looking where she was walking. She walked right into...
obviously, you don't actually look at the ground or below you 100% of the time. You might be looking out at traffic. You might be looking at something in a store as you walk down, expecting the sidewalk to be solid.
Yep. Yeah. And so, for some reason, she did not look down. And maybe the lesson in this is, if you're on your phone, maybe you ought to not be moving, okay? Maybe it'll prevent you from being run over. If you're walking across the street or an intersection, maybe you should not be moving. Maybe you should not be driving or operating your vehicle when you're on a phone. Pay attention to where you're going, and maybe parents and grandparents, you need to re-emphasize that with the young people, that they really need to pay attention to what they're doing, because this one little girl just fell in the manhole. Now, if there weren't a passerby, it could have been very, very serious, and maybe she could have lost her life. So, as a lesson, I think we need to pay attention to what we're doing. And on that same line of thinking, Dr. Shealy, I was reading another story, Axios.com, Axios.com, and it says that the length of United States television commercials is getting shorter. So in 2014, 61% of the commercials were 30 seconds long. A few years later, the first half of 2017, only 49% were 30 seconds. Commercials are getting shorter. Now, the 15-second commercials used to be 29% in 2014. Now, their 15-second commercials on television are 36%. Now, commercials that are shorter than that, the numbers are increasing. So what this is telling me is a couple things. The way I read this is either commercials are getting more and more expensive, so advertisers are cutting down on the length of the commercials to save money, or people's attention spans are so short that a 30-second commercial is too long, and a 15-second commercial is more appropriate. That's the way I view it.
Tell people the reason people's attention span sucks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Shealy.
Well, the use of cell phones.
Yes. That's what I was tying this all together.
It is the most stupid thing human beings have ever done. Phones are not supposed to be in your hand, on your ear, 16 hours of waking time. I mean, distracting
people from whatever they should be doing. They're being interrupted by mostly unimportant things, in my opinion.
Drivel.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are listening and talking on a cell phone, even if it's not in their hand, even if they're not looking at it in their car, are functioning at the level of someone who's slightly drunk.
Mm-hmm. Literally. Literally. All right, so let me put an exclamation point on this. Our daughter was telling me a story, true story, about an interview she had. So she was interviewing for a position, and the person who was interviewing her stopped the interview to take a phone call. Interview continued. Stopped the interview to respond to a text. Now, our daughter was pretty polite. I probably wouldn't have been quite that polite. I would have walked out. I would have said, I know that's a really important text. I know that's a really important phone call. I know that you've got a lot of things that are way more important than interviewing me. So if you ever get an opportunity when you think that you can be serious about the interview, give me a call. And I might be able to
I'm not interested in working here. You suck.
Yeah. Well, that would be the upshot of what my intent was. But can you imagine? Well, let's take it to an extreme. So now we're in the emergency room, right? And the emergency room doctor is trying to make a very quick decision and they make very quick decisions, and they're excellent at this, based on my opinion and what I've seen. So the emergency room doctor, you think he's going to take a call in the middle of a diagnosis, or even worse, surgery? Are we going to allow that? Let's think about this. Put these instant communication devices in perspective. We'll be right back. Class, I was just thinking about a one-sentence email that I sent to the CEO of the electric cooperative, the same electric cooperative that I ran for the board of directors of recently, twice, and unsuccessfully, I might add. I sent, Dr. Shealy, the CEO an email. It was just one sentence. And it said, please remove the smart meter and replace it with a non-transmitting analog electric meter. Thank you, Vincent Finelli. That's all it said. I haven't gotten a response yet. And so I plan on letting our broadcast class know how this works. The process of being polite and requesting that my smart meter be removed. Because I don't have enough solar power at the moment to totally disconnect from the grid. The plan is to do that, because I have a feeling this removal of the smart meter is going to be very, very difficult. And I haven't explained exactly why. So the emails will get progressively more detailed, more firm, and I will discuss it more. And I hope that I won't have to give out his phone number, but if I have to, I will. And we'll see how this works, because I want my smart meter removed from the farm. It transmits. It's dangerous. I don't want the frequency here. They give me a headache. I don't want it. So I wanted to share that.
How far do they reach? Do you know?
Well, from what I've read, they use the house wiring as an antenna. So they not only transmit through the air, but they also send signals back from the backside of the meter through the house. So I've taken the tri-field meter, and when it pulses, if you're close to it, it pulses. It'll peg the needle on the tri-field meter. And in our location, we got special treatment. We have not only a smart meter on the farmhouse, but it can't transmit at its strongest signal. Obviously, it's not strong enough to reach wherever it wants to reach, so they put a repeater on our farm. So we have the equivalent of a smart meter plus a repeater. Now, I don't know if our repeater is the collection point for other smart meters to transmit to our repeater or what, but I want them out of here. I really do. So I'm annoyed. The original reason that I ran for the board of directors is I wanted to get rid of the smart meter, and I was unsuccessful in doing that. Do I want to run a third time and get beaten for the third time? I don't think so. Because the people who are in charge, who have the votes, they're not particularly interested in learning about smart meters or electric rates or the susceptibility of the grid to an EMP. They're interested in hot dogs, games, prizes, circuses, that kind of thing. That's what they're interested in. So I can't reach them. I'm wasting my time. So the only thing I can do is go through the CEO and use the power of the microphone and the power of the internet to expose what's happening with smart meters. And just about every utility is switching to these smart meters. And they tell us it's for our own good, so they can determine power outages. Really what it's for, in my opinion, is to have in place a time of use metering. So, for example, if it's really, really cold out and you really need that heat pump to work, they go, well, we'll do that. We'll have electricity for you, but it's more expensive because it's cold out. Or, in the summer when you need that air conditioning, well, we'll get you electricity, but it's more expensive because it's hot out. And I think that's the purpose. Real-time meter rate changes and collection. So I think that's really why they're doing it. And I want that smart meter off my house and my farmhouse. But I'll let you know how successful or unsuccessful I am. I have not received a response yet, but I imagine pretty soon I will, because I'll just keep sending more and more emails. Then they'll go to letters. Then they'll go to certified mail, and so forth. But we're going to get this message through, and I'll let the class know whether I'm successful or not, what works and what doesn't work. And we want to give everybody credit for their participation in this, and maybe we'll ask for participation from the class and ask, why? Hey, why hasn't Finelli gotten, an analog meter back? Why? Why is that? Yeah. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, have a great one.
You too. Norm Shealy. NormShealy.com.